Welcome back to another coaching episode. Today I have with me Andrea Caprio. Andrea is coming in from Italy. Andrea, welcome to our coaching session.
Great to be here, Mary. I'm excited. Thank you for having me here.
It is my pleasure, and I am also excited to dive right into our coaching today. Are you able to tell our audience who you are, what you do, and why it is that you're here today?
I'm Andrea Caprio. I am German originally. I actually just got my Italian citizenship. I'm married to an Italian, and I'm just gotten the citizenship as well. I'm a master certified transformational nutrition coach. So I help people to overcome their weight issues and emotional eating issues. And I'm also a business coach, helping other coaches to grow their business to a six-figure business.
Amazing, amazing. So we have a fellow coach with us today. So, Andrea, what brings you here into our coaching session today?
But I mean, you contacted me or you actually put it out there. So I was curious what you're doing. Our paths crossed through in a network actually, and through a friend or fellow coach we know. And yeah, I was curious what you're doing and what's that about. And I can never harm, I believe as a coach, you need coaching.
Yes, a good coach always has a coach. So we do believe in the coaching process. Okay, great. So are you ready to get started into our session today?
Let's go with it.
Okay, great. So I would love to know what is top of mind for you.
So I would say at the moment it's definitely my just having changed from my nutrition business into the business coaching sphere. So I have done a little bit before already, but that is obviously something that's very much on top of mind at the moment to get this new part of my coaching business off the ground as quickly as possible, being able obviously to serve my clients as best as possible and get it to a level, because I'm literally starting at zero there. No, I have one client already, but it's basically making that happen as fast as possible without any hesitation.
Okay, yeah. So your priority is really about getting your business going in terms of switching niches into business coaching. What outcome are you looking to achieve by the end of our call today?
Um, Getting clear about the steps I need to take, and how also, I think I mentioned that earlier, how I can use my time the most efficiently.
Yes. Okay. Okay. And what's important about that for you in terms of getting clear?
But the efficiency for me is something that I believe that I'm not always that efficient. I can sometimes get sidetracked. I can sometimes get maybe work on the wrong tasks, or not the priority tasks. And then in terms of the steps, knowing what to do is, well, it's important obviously to know the steps. I mean, I've already, worked on this, so I have some steps already put together. I think my thing is that very often I get lost in too many in the woods, basically. I don't see the trees anymore. So it's just my mind goes all over the place. I mean, my mind is constantly working on ideas and all that, and then implementing them in the right order is probably where I struggle, because there's always so much. And I think one of the things is to make sure that that I have small enough steps, not just the big task,
Right.
but smaller steps there.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like, in addition to wanting some tactical things sorted out in terms of focus and what to work on and the sequencing of the tasks and what to do next, it also sounds to me like maybe a little bit of clarity around prioritization and what's important. What are those high value tasks that you need to tackle? Would that?
Yeah, I think I'm clear on what I want to create, more or less. I mean, it's obviously it's a moving thing. It will move depending, because literally I'm starting, but it's sometimes, yeah, it's more about the prioritization of the tasks. What are the important tasks?
Sorry, did you say it's not about the prioritization of the
No, it
task?
is about the prioritization. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, okay, that's good. Just to confirm. Okay, so with our time here today, if you were to be able to get clear on prioritization of the tasks and understanding, the areas of focus, what would signal to you that you got what you needed and you are clear on your tasks and prioritization of those tasks? What would signal to you that you're walking away with what you were looking for?
It would signal once I've implemented everything. then I know it's good because I'm very easily to walk away well, and then half an hour later I'm back into all over the place.
Yes. So if you were to walk away, well, what does that look like for you? Is it a feeling that you will have by the end of the session, feeling like, okay, yeah, this feels right. I'm ready to go with this?
Probably
Or,
feeling or a written down task list or something like that. That's super clear.
okay, that's helpful. Okay, great. Okay, so let's get started on where are things currently with your business of building it out to serve other coaches or other clients that are looking to build their businesses. Where are things at with you?
Okay, so I got a client. I am at the moment, it just started. I'm a speaker at a business summit through a friend. I kind of was very lucky on that one, or coincidence. It actually, I must say, it accelerated me becoming a business coach, this whole thing, because I had planned it for a little bit later, and I have was always like, oh, I need in my nutrition business, I need to get to that level, and then I'm going to be a business coach, or then I'm going to focus more on this. So it just happened. So this summit I'm on, I'm a speaker with very high level other speakers, and the summit is all about lead generation or marketing techniques for mostly coaches or entrepreneurs that don't involve social media. So obviously collaboration is perfect. And because of that, I have literally created two very high value lead magnets, or rather one lead magnet that has three magnets in it, plus a normal product that I throw in for free, but it's normally something that I could sell. Plus, I actually put together the product of my mastermind. So it's all there. I have put all the pages together. So I have two landing pages, the delivery pages, and the sales page for my mastermind as well. So it's literally all standing there, which is great. Just finishing some sequences here. So, the product is all out there. In terms of the active side on going out, I've started contacting people. I have a list of roughly 500 people already. I had in the past organized summits myself. So, I've connected with people, I've contacted people to be on their podcasts or wherever. So, I have a kind of long list of, yeah, I mean, it's not huge, it's 500 people, but still, it's easier than zero, obviously. And so I started contacting so far those people I've been personally connected with, or people who reached out in the past to me or whatever, just saying, hey, where you are at, I have great news, I have this new thing, let's chat. I'm looking a little bit to get your eyes on and know a little bit more. And obviously from there, the idea is to see if either they know somebody who might be interested or if they are interested in. So I'm doing that actively already.
Okay. And is that all related to the summit, or is that all related to having some leads come into the mastermind that you've
No,
created?
that's purely the last part is, I mean, obviously the lead magnet and all that, that is for the summit, and obviously for me as well after. I mean, it serves all purposes, but contacting the people is for the mastermind directly.
Okay. Okay. That's great. That's great. And so you're doing all the work that you need to be doing in terms of building out your new niche and getting clients and having them. So it sounds like you're looking for clients, perhaps one-on-one as well as mastermind clients, or is it like a group coaching?
No, at the moment, mostly mastermind. I mean, if somebody, really wants one-on-one, obviously, I will not say no. But my goal is to fill up the mastermind as fast as possible. And then, yeah, I see from there, obviously, from more one-on-one and so on.
And do you have key dates for this mastermind? Is there like a hard deadline that you're working yourself towards?
No, I don't, because it's not a launch or anything. It's just, I will have it as an evergreen. I mean, that might change. We'll see, but I'm not huge on the launch. I find it always a bit too stressful.
Right. Yes. Okay. So it's sort of an ongoing mastermind
Hmm.
coaches can come into, and I'm actually assuming is it mostly, are you targeting coaches for the mastermind?
Yeah, it's basically, so it's health coaches, it's life personal development coaches, in the spiritual field as well, fitness, the whole health field. So it can also be consultant or other experts.
Okay. Okay. And what is like what are you aspiring for? Do you have certain metrics or targets in terms of how many people you want to enroll? What does that future state look like for you?
So at this stage, I would like to enroll 20 people in there. And at the moment, I have it at a special founders price. And then obviously that price will go up probably after 10 people. I have to decide a little bit how it goes. And then, yeah, I'll see probably how that goes by that time and then decide either to go, to add more people on or maybe develop another course additionally, another program. I don't know. I mean, that's something I leave a little bit open.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes we sort of start with one offering and then,
Yeah.
as we start building from there. Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so thank you, Andrea. I think that's very, very helpful context in trying to understand where you currently are and where you're trying to go. So the next part of our session is really about addressing the gap of where we are now to where we're trying to go. So talk to me about what are some challenges that you're currently experiencing in building this out?
Mm, I think that the day doesn't have enough hours. So yeah, like I say, it's a little bit about the efficiency. I mean, I believe a lot of things. I mean, I have a Clockify, time taker here. So I'm taking, account of my hours. I'm not religious about it. I mean, that's not the idea, but I want to see a bit where my time goes. I also track the time on an Excel sheet in terms of very quickly that I have the time and the what I achieve, how many people I contact, like how many leads I contact or something like that. Because I've noticed that very often I can spend like 5 hours in my emails, or, whatever it is. Or, I get started with something and suddenly something comes to mind and I then get onto the other thing. And then, I start, oh, okay, I have to do this and this. And, from one thing, it goes in the next. And by the end of the day, I say, oh, but this was not on my task list. And it is not something that's a priority or that's related to my goal, or what I wanted to do. So it sometimes serves as well, but I can easily go down those rabbit holes.
Yes, absolutely. I think I can also relate to that. So, I mean, I'm curious, how do you set up your day? Like, is it structured? Do you have a list of things you want to get done?
I try to be at my desk at about 9 o'clock. I normally do, check through my emails and plan my day. I have a planning thing where I plan the month and then, the week. And usually my tasks go from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday and so on. So they don't get as fast done as I am. So there is too much on my task list. But I, tick it off. So I get somehow the good feeling about it as well, the win, so I can see it, that I'm actually doing some things. Um, and then, yes, I normally try to spend as much as possible time in the morning, like for lead generation. And I'm trying to get into, batching in terms of doing maybe I don't know, on Tuesday, my video creation process, and then shooting all the videos on Wednesday and so on. But that doesn't happen. It's there, the idea is there, but it's not happening. And as I say, then very often my day just goes, right? And, by the end of the day, I've done not enough. And I have actually done things, but it feels like I've not done enough. And then I put the tasks to the next day.
Right. Yes. And when you feel like you haven't done enough, have you ever defined what is enough? Because
No.
driven entrepreneurs and high achievers have a hard time, I guess, feeling like they've put in enough, even though they do more than what most people would do. They
Yeah.
just recognize that feeling of enough because it hasn't really been like, what would feel enough?
Um, Probably if my list is empty, which I don't think it will ever happen. One, there's too much on the list, and there's always something else. I mean, I have so many lists. There's always something.
Right. Yeah. So if we were to think about what would feel like enough for today or enough for this morning, would you be able to sort of quantify if I get these done today, that would be enough? Because
Hmm.
we know we can't get them all, right? We all have lists that, and they'll never end because the more that comes off, the more that comes back on, right? Like
Yeah.
that lists are not never really meant to be done. There's always something to do.
But I'm trying to get my list down, let's say, to 3 tasks, but there are always like 10 other tasks on it. I don't know, they just magically come down right on onto that list. And that's probably kind of a struggle where I'm constantly saying, okay, but there's always something and I need to have it somewhere. So otherwise, it gets forgotten or whatever.
So do you look at your list and try to like structure it as these are the high impact tasks that I need to get done today, and then here's the lower impact, lower priority tasks? Like, do you triage your list?
I have tried that, but that never happened.
And why is that?
I don't know. I tried so many different methods. I mean, I'm literally, I mean, I even one stage many years ago, I paid, I think, $2,000 for a really good course, how to get better organized and get more done or so. Yeah, it sticks some time. I do it a little bit and then it gets forgotten.
Hmm. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's hard when we struggle with task prioritization and being able to kind of stay focused. And I think like many people do struggle with that because as someone who's trying to build something, there's one of you and there's so much to get done. So it's easy to start feeling, that overwhelm and like not really knowing where to focus, where to put our time, how to prioritize, because just things are sort of coming at us in different directions. So I guess I'm wondering,
Mm.
I know you mentioned in your intake form that you have built built a six-figure business in the past. And I'm curious, what worked for you then in being able to have a thriving business and being able to get those tasks completed and being successful in coaching?
I don't think I did much different in terms of, task prioritization. I mean, I had at one stage, I mean, I had a coach, but I have a coach now as well. So, that might be something eventually that contributed. I had at times, but it was not always, I mean, it had not necessarily to do with my income because initially the first year, let's say, of the higher income, I didn't have a bigger team. But the second year, I had a bigger team, which was actually a big mistake. I got to, yeah, oh, I'm successful now, whatever kind of thing. Let me add the team, and I added it too early. In hindsight, one of the mistakes I definitely made, and additionally, they were not very good, but that's another story. So yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I had a certain, system on how to get my leads at the time that worked until it didn't because it didn't depend on me, unfortunately. And that's, that changed a lot of dynamics in my business at the time. Um, but I think the way I'm handling my tasks, as I say, I go back to certain times and certain things I do and they work and then they don't work anymore. So at the moment, I'm actually, I think, relatively good in, like tracking and trying to get through my tasks. And I do have somewhere a list that says, okay, this is the most important, right? I mean, I know my goals, so I know that those, tasks that lead to the goals, like for example, at the moment, I'm fully focused on lead generation. I think the biggest thing is that then, I say, okay, fine, now I have to add the videos. And then, yes, and now, with the new business, okay, oh yeah, now I have to do the sequence, because I have these, lead magnets. But then, oh yeah, but now I want to open a Facebook group because I need that. So now I have to open that Facebook group, and I know it's not always a lot of time, but, it's a little bit here. And then maybe I run into a little issue or so, it doesn't work, and then it takes longer than I thought it takes, and so on.
Okay, yeah. And I think you mentioned earlier that you were trying to maybe theme out your days where you focus like Monday, you have a specific focus maybe on content creation, Tuesday. And I think has that been helpful in any way?
Again, it's helpful until it's not helpful anymore and I get off track.
And you get off track. Okay, okay. So what do you think could be some of the challenges there in something working until it's not working and then trying something new? Like, why do things stop working? I guess is my question.
Um, there could be various things. It could obviously be something like self-sabotage or whatever, so mindset stuff. Um, but I think it is also to do that, I think my mind works super fast. I get easily bored. I'm not necessarily great at repetitive tasks. I'm probably actually far better at just creating and putting out, super ideas, but I still need to implement them, right? Or I need to go into another business, that they don't get implemented alone. So I think it's a little bit that some of my skills are maybe not the best in those areas. I don't
Right.
know.
Yes. So it's interesting that you say that. And I don't know if you've ever taken the Colby test.
I
Um,
have, yeah.
so you sort of know where you
Yeah.
should
Yeah,
focus
yeah, yeah. Very,
skills are.
very clear. I've done plenty of tests, so very clear. Yes.
Yes, yes. So yeah, it does sound like routine and repetitiveness is probably where you begin to sort of check out. Like it's not really interesting or fun. And then you'd switch it up and you try something else and then you try something else in hopes of perhaps staying engaged and interested in what it is that needs to get done. So when you're looking at your tasks, you said that you do prioritize them, like you know what needs to get done.
Hmm.
Is one of the issues sort of maybe then related to your focus and being able to maybe stay focused on the tasks that aren't necessarily fun or shiny or interesting?
Yeah, probably that, kind of the boredom or the procrastination kind of sets in, and yeah, probably a procrastination thing that sets in somehow, that makes me stop, staying on track or so, knowing very well, I mean, I'm a coach. I coach other people. It's very easy to tell other people what they should be doing, but for oneself it's always a little bit more difficult.
Right. Yes. And when that procrastination sets in and you stop doing that task, how are you feeling?
Not always good. I mean, usually that gets together also when I get, I don't know, if sometimes I just get low on energy or motivation or whatever. So there's definitely something, but it can then be that either my life is not a long, quiet river. I mentioned to you earlier, I traveled a lot, or rather moved a lot. And, there's always something going on somehow in our lives. So that's the one thing, or, I get sick or maybe a little bit tired or whatever it is, and I kind of get out of the routine, and it's probably an excuse as well. But then going back, then suddenly I'm back to it, and then I forgot that the Tuesdays were my content creation days, right? And or whatever it is, right? So I kind of have to restart, and that's probably a little bit hard sometimes.
Right, right. So then, in knowing that about yourself, you have a lot, you're a coach, so you have a ton of self-awareness, right? And you're right, like it's easy for us to see where people need to pay more attention, but sometimes it's hard for us to take our own advice and try to implement that in our own lives, in our own routines, in our own processes. So in knowing that you get easily distracted, you're easily bored on routine tasks, and then you start to sort of procrastinate, possibly self-sabotage, right? And then there's just that break where you're not doing what you originally intended. So it's like a negative feedback loop, right? And then we kind of get into it deeper and deeper and we feel worse about ourselves. So I'm thinking like, okay, if you know this, right? If you know that this is the cycle that repeats itself, how do we break that cycle? Like, what is a trigger that we can create for ourselves when we're realizing what we're doing, right? Without judgment, just realizing that it's now a slippery slope. What can we do to ensure that we're able to kind of get back to center and go back to figuring out, okay, why am I doing this in the first place? What can anchor you?
In general, it would be rest. I've clearly identified that. That when I get to that stage, I should take off, ideally weeks, which
Okay.
obviously I don't do, right? But rest is good. I've been kind of meditating and journaling about it. The whole, I meditate every day and all these kind of things. So I do a lot of things around that. I'm sure they help. I mean, I've been doing it for decades or whatever. So I'm sure that they help, obviously, but I don't think they help in the moment when I'm getting in a spin or when I'm like not happy or something like that. I don't know. I just noticed that the only thing is really that's helping me for me is rest.
Is
And
rest.
I've been a little bit gentler. I mean, whenever on myself, I don't push through anymore unless I really have to, like I have a client's, session or something like that. But I do, like, especially when I get sick or so, I'm really getting tired, which often is sort of either I'm getting sick or I'm maybe almost getting sick. And oops, that's interesting. What's happening there?
It's not something to celebrate.
It's quite funny. Yeah, no, that's
That
depending on
never happened.
what things you do. Now you can also do like this, and then you have a thumb up or come anyway. Um,
I disabled that.
yeah, that's
But I
funny.
guess I didn't disable the balloons. That's
So yeah, so anyway, the rest definitely helps me. And
okay.
usually after then it gets better, but by the time I kind of lost steam, and then it's also very difficult to go back to where I was at. And that's very often, I think, when I kind of change a bit directions.
Yeah, so I guess that's really good to know. And what comes to my mind is how do we set up our day? How do we set up our week? How do we set up our month so that we actually don't get to the point where we need the rest, right? Because rest is a result sometimes of also overexertion, right?
Hmm.
Doing too much with the time that we have available. And continuously sort of burning out because we feel like we're always falling behind. We're
Yeah,
never up. It's never enough time. And that brings us into the mindset of scarcity, right? Like always feeling like we're not enough, we're not doing enough, we're not achieving enough. And that's difficult to to go through our days feeling those emotions and not really actually looking back and thinking like I have done enough. I did do a lot today. There was something challenging and I figured it out, and then I'm going to
mm,
celebrate that win, right? And then I'm going to stack that win to prove to myself that I am doing enough, I am enough, I am getting moving forward, right? And I'm curious, like, do you intentionally look at your tasks and actually reflect and celebrate what got done today, what got done this week, what got done this month, and how much further along you are from where you were.
Yeah, I mean, not always like, like yay and whatever, but I definitely, I mean, I have a task list that I tick off and I go through a little bit and I see, what I'm gotten done, but then I see all the things that I haven't, yeah, read. So I think one is that I set too big tasks for too short time. One thing. And yeah, the rest before it happens or before I need it is never happening. I mean, the idea of having a 3 days work week or having, the Friday off or having 1 week per month off just never happens. I mean, I try it a little bit. I try at least, 1 day per weekend or so to be completely off. There's exceptions, but usually, I try also to have my weekend. I live in Italy, so usually, here we are a little bit less than in America that we work all through. But this you mentioned earlier, I just want to go back. The scarcity is probably one of the big things because that's probably the bigger problem. And I think I mentioned it in my intake form, is that I definitely, have this fear of not having enough in terms of, um, yeah, in terms of money or, whatever it is. For me, or to be able to live comfortably, have the freedom to travel when I want, and also looking forward a little bit in a few years, when eventually I'm going into pension or whatever, I want to step back a little bit or dial back also, to make sure that is covered. And that is something that's definitely sitting always kind of up there.
So could that fear of not having enough be also driving some of the self-sabotage?
For sure.
Yeah. And how can, I guess my question is, does that drive you to do more or does that drive you to do less? When some people are driven by fear, and they'll do as much as they can to overcome that fear. And other people actually, it hinders their growth. It hinders what's possible for them.
I'm not sure, because I certainly, my whole life I've been working hard, that's for sure. And there's definitely, some childhood stuff and whatever that made me always believe I have to work more harder or whatever, to achieve, to become whatever and this and that. So that's 100% sure. And I'm very aware of that. But on the other hand, I'm not sure how much that fear is hindering me. Probably it is, um, because, when you're in a situation like I need money instead of, I whatever, um, we know it's not a good thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And if you didn't have that, like to me, I see that as that's one of the ways in which we limit ourselves, right? We create a limiting belief around ourselves, even to just say, like, I have to work harder. Is that really true? Are most successful people working harder?
No, no. I very well know I've done so much work around that, but between knowing it, on a conscious level and having your subconscious catching up.
Yes, exactly. I guess I'm curious to know, like, if that wasn't an issue, if you didn't have that fear, if you didn't have that scarcity mindset of, like, around money, would you show up differently to your work as a coach? How would you show up differently if you never had to worry about money?
It's difficult to say with my new coaching. I mean, that's maybe one of the things that, new coaching direction I took might actually allow me to show up differently, but I don't know yet. It feels more in line. I was not aligned or didn't feel aligned before so much. And I don't know, it feels easier, that's for sure. No, I still have to prove, I'm literally at the beginning of it, so I don't know.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that there would be more of a feeling of ease in the work that you're doing because you're not thinking about this thing at the back of your mind related to like meeting
Yeah.
income targets and pension targets and, time targets and all this stuff that kind of keeps us ruminating in our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like some of the things that, you came in struggling with in terms of prioritization, in terms of focus on the right things, it sort of sounds like those are some of your issues, but maybe perhaps what's underlying beneath that are more mindset related issues in terms of like self-sabotage, in terms of scarcity, not enoughness, not having enough money. And I believe we've kind of established that, one does affect the other. Would that
Of course, yeah.
make sense? So in having these realizations, um, I'm sort of wondering what is something that you've learned and also you can commit to in trying to better the situation around your tasks and your focus?
Um, well, that I'm doing enough.
Yeah. Are you doing enough?
I probably do, but again, I don't see it necessarily.
Yeah. And how can you help yourself see that you're actually showing up? You're showing up and you're doing the work and you're learning and you're growing and you're moving forward because you told me that you do see yourself ticking things off your task list, which shows
Hmm.
me it's progress. You are making progress, right? You're not taking days and weeks off, right? You're showing up at 9 a.m. at your desk, you're putting in a full day's work, and it would be great if you were to be able to give yourself that day off. But it sounds like you actually don't let yourself off the hook.
Of course not.
Right. Probably because you're a good coach. You're committed and you're dedicated, and sometimes we do things for our business at the detriment of our own well-being.
Yeah, I think the thing is, we as coaches, we are coaches, but we are entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And we're with,
And I always say, we're wearing all these different hats, right? We are having a coach hat and then a sales hat and then a marketing hat and an admin and an operation hat and whatnot.
and when we wear all these hats, one of the most important things that we need for ourselves is boundaries,
Mm.
right? So creating those boundaries so that we actually have a boundary for enough. Like, I did enough today. If I had an employee, I wouldn't have that expectation of my employee, right? I would tell that employee, wow, thank you. Great job. You've done enough. Please go home, right? Go rest and recuperate. But we are our own employee and we are our own manager, right? So I would invite you to tell me, how can you be your own employee and treat yourself with kindness and compassion around doing enough and recognizing that that's it for today? That's a win.
I'm driving my VA team pretty hard, I must say. So I don't know. I mean, yes, of course, I'm compassionate about them, right? And I tell them what a good job they do or whatever. But I certainly drive them sometimes mad. I don't know. I can easily say, "Oh, I will do it," but I don't know if I will do it.
Right. And often, if we don't have a system or a process in place to ensure that we do it, it doesn't get done.
Mm.
So we will do it. Absolutely. Yes. But what's going to support us in doing it? What's going to hold us accountable? Right. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we only have a limited amount of energy, right? And when we deplete that energy, when we go into our next day, we're already depleted from the previous day and the
I
previous week,
know.
previous,
Mm.
right? So, how do we create a boundary for ourselves so that we are able to implement this incessant need to keep doing more, right? Like it's good to be driven, but it's hard to stay driven and have peace at the same time if we're not doing things to ensure that we're safeguarding our peace, our well-being. So I'm going to put it back onto you, Andrea, because I care that you overcome this. What can you do for yourself to ensure that you have that boundary in place?
Um, I don't know, because again, I go back, on my list, there's always all these items and they're always part of the puzzle. So I don't know.
So are you able to look at that list and say, realistically, I can get these done today in the time I have and the complexity of this task? This is what I expect of myself.
Again, I can try, but I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So, I know our time together is nearing to an end, and I want to respect your time and your next commitment. But I guess I would like to know from you, is there anything else that you think could help support you or hold you accountable,
Mm, I don't know, no.
or anyone? Sometimes it's a thing that can support you as like,
Yeah, no, I can hold myself accountable. It works pretty well. Usually when I write it down, I can try that. Um, yeah.
okay, well, I mean, these types of things are always ongoing, right? Like especially
Mm.
mindset. It's iterative and it takes time, right? Because as you mentioned earlier, it's like you can understand it on a logical level, but it's more about the subconscious programming that makes us do these things and form these patterns around our thinking, our acting, and our doing. So I mean, it's certainly a process, but would this be perhaps a natural place to end our call today?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. Well,
Perfect.
Andrea, I wish you all the luck. I thank you for being courageous to come on and be coached. And I hope we can do this again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mary, so much for that. That was insightful. I certainly will think about it.
Wonderful. My pleasure. Okay, take
Thank
care.
you.